Here it is, September 23rd, 2025 at 2:45, 70 degrees, 36% humidity, and let's go. So today, one of the things that I like about going on trail often is you start to see and recognize people that enjoy the trail like you do. You know, you start seeing familiar faces and start forming some relationships even. So today I want to talk about two stories about people that I've run into multiple times on the trail. The first one is I ran into this guy. I've been on these trails for many years, and several years back is the first time I ran into this guy. He's a hiker, and I'd be riding my bike, and he'd come across the trail, and he'd stop and talk. Very friendly. He was that hiker type. He had all the gear, the boots and the hat and the pants and the backpack. A real nice guy. And he was older than me, but he loved hiking. And one of the things that he would always ask is, how many miles are you going today? And I would, tell him my trail that I was planning on going on and my estimated ride, and I'd ask him the same thing, and he'd say, oh yeah, he'd tell me about the hike that he was going on and how long he expected to hike. And his hikes were usually pretty, 17-mile hikes or more. So, every time we'd run into, we'd have a little talk, and I always ask the question, well, how far are you going today? And this went on for several hikes and several years. And the last time, I was thinking, I haven't seen him since I had this last interaction with him, but the last time I saw him, we had our usual conversation, and I said, well, how far are you hiking today? And he said, I think he said he was going 20-something miles. I can't remember. And I said, oh, well, it's a good hike. He says, well, I'm preparing to go on my end, I think he said 70th birthday, to walk rim to rim the Grand Canyon. And I thought, wow. And I have never done that hike, but my brother and his family have done it multiple times. And it's one of those hikes where they talk about people dying on it. And they themselves talk about how they get down to the bottom and they're just like, the heat's so bad and it's just crazy. It's one of those hikes that me and my wife have talked that we never want to go on that hike. But this is what he was planning to do for his, I want to say 70th birthday. That sounds right to me. But I thought, isn't that amazing? There's this guy who loves hiking so much and being out so much, and that's what he wants to do for his 70th birthday. And I'm thinking, I always joke that on my every birthday, I'll be out riding my bike if I can. So that was story number one. Story number two is I ran into this lady, and for the purpose of this story, I'm going to call her Calamity Jane, and you'll see why. So she also rides a bike on the trail, and I've actually ran into her 2 times on the trail. The first time, I was riding up the trail, and there's this one part on the trail where it's pretty narrow, and there's bushes growing, fairly tall bushes growing on each side. So I'm going through this narrow part where there's not a lot of visibility, and remind you, I'm going up. There are some rules of etiquette that you're supposed to follow, and you're supposed to yield to, if you're going down, you're supposed to yield to people going up. And that's an important part of the story, actually. So I'm going up, and she's coming down, and she comes flying around this corner. And I'm pedaling up, and I end up going into the bushes, and she ends up skidding on the trail. And I had it on GoPro, but I can't find the footage. And she gets up and she apologizes and said, sorry, oh, I didn't mean to do that, sorry, I didn't see you, blah, 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 what they usually say. And I'm like, it's okay, you know, I'm fine. So she gets back on her bike and drives away. So that was Calamity Jane and I's first interaction. So the second time, same trail, and I'm riding up the trail. Once again, I am riding up the trail. And there's this portion of the trail where, I mean, it's just on the lower part of the trail, nothing spectacular about it. And all of a sudden, here comes Calamity Jane down the trail, just flying down the trail. So I'm pedaling up to, and I actually have to ditch my bike because she's coming so fast and jump down into a ravine. I mean, it's a good, 7 feet. So here I am, me and my bike are down in this ravine. And I stand up, and my pants are shredded. Like, when the Incredible Hulk turns into the Hulk, and his clothes get shredded. Well, that's what my pants look like. So I am down in this ditch. My pants are shredded, my bike's down there. I'm looking up at Calamity Jane. And so I climb out of the ditch, pull my bike out of the ditch, and she's like, oh, are you okay? Everything okay? I'm like, yeah. And I said, yeah. She goes, oh. And this is, so we're having this conversation. We're talking about trail etiquette, And she says point blank to me, now remember the story I just told you. She says point blank to me, oh, I would never run anybody off the trail. I'd go into the ditch myself. I'd dive off my bike before I ran anybody off the trail. So here I am. And I don't know what she was thinking, but I just looked at her and I'm like, you just told me, is that starting after now? Because, oh yeah, I just ran you off the trail. But from now on, I will never run anybody off the trail. I would ditch my bike before I ran anybody off the trail. And I just sat there following. And somehow in the conversation, I think she wanted to prove what a good biker she was. She said, and I'm on the City Bike Trail Council. And I thought, that's a weird flex. I'm like, what does that, is she trying to tell me that I can't do anything about it? Or what? I'm like, fine. So I get back on my bike and I check and make sure that I'm modest enough to continue riding up the trail because I have my Hulk pants on. And she continues on the path. I just thought the whole way up about what she said about, I would never run anybody off the trail. I'd end up in the ditch first. And I'm like, okay. It's always interesting when people, I don't know, I always wonder what people think in those situations. Was she thinking that it was my fault and she didn't run me off the trail? I don't know. I often wonder at those points in time what goes through people's minds. That's my 2 stories about people I met on the trail. And part of the reason I decided to do this in the first place. Thanks.